Thank you for joining us for the 5th webinar of our Business Recovery Series. The series is intended to provide businesses with training, information, and resources necessary for business success, recovery, and preparation for unplanned events. And it is brought to you by the City and County of San Francisco Contractor Development Program and the Alameda County Contractor Technical Assistance Program. Both programs, by the way, are administered by Merriwether Williams Insurance Services. My name is Judy Singeroth, Marketing Manager at Merriwether Williams. Today's webinar in this series focuses on financial, project, and strategic planning management. Now, before we begin, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. If you are experiencing any technical or audio issues, please reach out to me via the chat box, which is located at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions anytime throughout the presentation, please type your question in the Q&A feature, which is also located at the bottom of your screen. An email evaluation form has been sent out to you this morning to gain your input and feedback. If you haven't completed it yet, please do so as soon as possible. Your feedback will help us with future planning and improvements on upcoming webinars. So please note that this webinar is being recorded, and without further delay, I want to pass the mic on to Carol Henry, who is our Program Manager for the Alameda County Contractor Technical Assistance Program. Welcome, Carol.
Good afternoon. Again, thank you for joining us today. I'm Carol Henry, Bond Program Manager for the Alameda County Contractor Technical Assistance Program. The CTAP program is designed to assist small, local, minority, and women-owned contractors in Alameda County. We offer various technical assistance as well as assistance with bonding for contractors seeking to bid work in Alameda County. We do this by identifying and developing strategies to help grow and strengthen your business. Please, my contact information will be provided at the end of the webinar. Please feel free to reach out to me. And with that, I turn it over to Jennifer Elmore.
Once again, I will echo Carol and say thank you for attending our seminar. My name is Jennifer Elmore. I'm the Program Manager for the City and County of San Francisco Contractor Development Program, or CDP. I'm joined today by my colleague, Ken Hyman. The CDP is here to assist local business enterprise businesses to navigate starting work or working on San Francisco projects. We work with you to ascertain your business needs and to ensure that you have sufficient resources to enter into a contract with the City and County of San Francisco. Our goal is to assist you in your growth and to remediate some of the barriers that might prevent you from being successful. The first step would be to set up an appointment for a one-on-one evaluation to identify which technical services your business may require. The goal of the evaluation is to create a strategic development plan that fits your business's needs and utilize the services CDP offers. CDP services include marketing, estimating, safety, accounting, financial service, to name just a few. CDP's objective is to assist in the growth of your business and assist that LBEs have sufficient bonding through our surety bond program and or financing through our contractor accelerated payment program. When working on San Francisco qualifying projects, please contact us via email or set up an appointment. Our contact information will be after this seminar, or you can respond to the email sent earlier today with the webinar evaluations. And again, thank you for attending. And with that, please allow me to introduce the CAP Program Manager, John Miller, our presenter for today.
John, you're on mute.
It'll help if I turn it off mute, right? Thanks again, Jennifer, and everybody for the introductions there. And yes, John Miller here. I am our CAP, our Contractor Accelerated Payment Program Manager, which really just encompasses the underwriting of our CAP program, our CAP loan program, are the origination of our CAP loans and the monitoring of those loans in conjunction with our strategic partners at the City of San Francisco. Without further ado, if we can get into the program for today, if we can put the presentation up. There we go. Okay, so we've entitled this program today, How to Be Competitive Without Losing Your Socks. And this program today is really a continuation of 3 previous programs that we presented in our recovery series. The first one on financial reporting, the second one on cash management, the third one on your business model and your profit model. This presentation will attempt to kind of pull all those pieces together and add a new piece to it, one of being a strategic planning that leads up to developing a marketing plan or a business plan. So for those of you who participated in the earlier seminars, you'll see some familiar material here. For those of you that didn't participate or didn't have an opportunity to, this presentation today is intended to be a standalone and to highlight the type of guidance that our Contractor Development Program and our CTAP programs can provide in order to help you become a more successful small business or local business enterprise. Okay, so if we go to the next slide, please. So for those of you who participated, you know, I kind of bang this drum over and over again with respect to contracting industry realities. You know, business failures by contractors are led by 3 key perennial factors, year in and year out: lack of available capital, poor contract performance, and that's not intended to mean the poor quality of contract delivery, but poor performance in the area of controlling costs and various aspects of financial management, sometimes quality, but for the most part, it's financial management on contracts, and a failure to operate with a long-term strategic plan. The statistics that back those 3 assertions up, and again, these are industry-wide causes for contractor failure, are that 20% of construction firms will fail in the first year of operation, and 50% fail within 5 years. Only 30% of construction projects finish within 10% of their intended budget. And contractors that operate with a plan, it's a well-known fact that they are twice as likely to grow and prosper. So as having a strategic plan is of critical importance to contractors if they're going to be successful on a long-term basis. Next slide, please. So let's break down how to be competitive into 3 pieces for small business enterprises or LBE contractors. In order to focus on those 3 areas of potential business failure, we're going to talk about cash management today, project planning and execution, managing the business and profit model, and then transitioning into an effective long-term marketing plan. Our approach is to provide technical assistance based upon training that accentuates the importance of a continuous process of managing your finances, developing better and better means and methods and for project performance and monitoring, and the long-term strategic planning that will help you deliver work on time, on budget, and profitably. Next slide, please. So how to be competitive and not lose your socks? Well, for those of you who participated before, some of the areas I'm going to mention today are going to be a bit of a review, but nevertheless, cash management, we think, really focuses on your developing financial reporting in the area of balance sheet and income statement, schedule of work in process, cash flow projecting, understanding the difference between markup and margin, job cost status reporting, proper preparation and timely submission of pay application, and also understanding the impact and how to properly put together change orders. Now, to take a step back here, that balance sheet that once you get your financial reporting structure set up, which by the way, we can provide guidance in, that is a rearward look at your financial results, whether it be on a quarterly basis, on a semi-annual basis, or on an annual basis. As important as the balance sheet and the income statement are as a rearward look at how your company is doing, the most important document for you to be implementing is the schedule of work in process spreadsheet, which provides you an up-to-date, even subsequent to, report on where you stand in terms of your backlog of open.
Thank you.
On your backlog of open projects. That schedule of work in process ultimately is a tie-in to your P&L. Sorry, I'm hearing some noise there.
That was me.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Can you mute your microphone? If
Yeah.
Thank you, Charles.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Now.
Very good. Thanks for attending today. Okay, so the schedule work in process is a supplement to your balance sheet and your P&L, but on an interim basis between producing either a monthly or quarterly or semi-annual or annual balance sheet and P&L. That schedule of work in process tells you where you are in terms of your cost to date, your billings to date, what you have left to bill on a project, what your earned income is, and whether or not your profit is trending in the direction that you had originally intended when you bid the project. So it's a very, very valuable piece of your financial reporting structure that supplements your understanding and knowledge of where you stand from a capital standpoint. The cash flow projection in and of itself might sound like a complicated process, but if you boil it right down to its component parts, the cash flow projection is utilized to project where you're going to be on a project or on your overall backlog by identifying your opening cash position, maybe tying it back to your balance sheet as an example, looking at your cash out during the course of a project, cash in the form of progress payments, and what your ending cash position is likely to be based upon projections. And in working with our clients in our CAP program, we are updating these cash flow projections weekly, if not every other week, in order to provide an accurate picture on the sources and uses of capital during the course of construction so that you can take immediate action to correct problems as they might be arising in terms of cost overrun and just general cost management. So the cash flow projection, the schedule of work in process, the balance sheet, and the income statement are really the cornerstones of your financial reporting structure. We also stress in our guidance in working with local business enterprises and small business enterprises, understanding the difference between markup and margin. And for those of you who suffered through my January presentation on the business model and the profit model, we talked a lot about the fact that in order to achieve a desired profit margin on a project, you need to calculate that profit based upon a markup figure that's actually larger. For example, you mark up a project by 25%, your margin, assuming that all the costs hold and everything goes as originally planned, your margin is really only going to be 20%. So the difference between markup and margin, and again, are working with you to go through how that should be calculated in order to achieve the type of results that you want to from a margin standpoint, notwithstanding cost factors that might come up during the project, is of paramount importance. We also stress the fact that job cost status reporting on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly basis from the project level, reporting back up to the home office level, and being incorporated into your financial reporting is of great importance. And I'll even talk about that a little bit when we talk about project management in the following slide. We also provide guidance in preparation of your pay applications, whether that be the AIA 702, 703 forms, help you with how those two forms feed to each other, and or assistance in invoicing or whatever the pay application format that your contract calls for. We're here to provide guidance and assistance in all of that. And of course, relating those pay applications and the timing of payments that you are going to receive, say contractual terms are 30 days, 45 days, or longer, the timing of those payments, that relates back to your cash flow projecting and your schedule of work in process, as well as your balance sheet and income statement. So understanding the pay application process, timing of payments, and how that all relates to your contract terms is an area that we can help you in terms of capital management. And then, of course, understanding the impact of change orders that originate, that are contractor driven, are certainly different than in documentation than change orders that might be requested by the project owner or the prime contractor if you happen to be in a subcontracting position in the field, versus change orders that are originated by the project owner, the architects or engineers, and prime contractor that are pre-approved and thus become an automatic part of an extended scope on your contracts. Those three types of change orders have unique record-keeping requirements that we can help you with in terms of, again, guidance. And also there is some art to how you sell a change order when it isn't an owner or prime contractor driven change in the scope of your work. So these areas of cash management as it relates to the pitfalls of capital and capacity in conjunction with our CAP loan program are areas that our developmental programs are all guaranteed to provide you assistance and guidance in. Are there any questions at this point in the program that anybody would like to field?
Yes, John, we do have a question that came in, and the question is, what do you mean by cash flow projection versus job cost status reporting?
Yeah, okay. So the job cost status report, in my mind, as an underwriter, is a snapshot of where you stand today in terms of accumulated costs. You're always going to supplement that report with what your budget is for various line items. The only difference between that, and by the way, that is a critical tool to managing cash flow. The only difference between that and the cash flow projection is that job cost status reporting can be fed up to the cash flow projection that you originate at the inception of the project, and those variances in numbers, whether they be payroll numbers, material expense numbers, equipment expense numbers, general and administrative expenses, whatever it might be, that can be worked in on a real-time basis to your cash flow projection. So the cash flow projection just adds another tool to the management of the project. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Looks like I don't have any more questions at this time, so let's go ahead and move forward.
Please.
Okay.
Okay, so then relating our presentation today back to those three basic factors of capital and project performance. Now we're looking at project performance. So how to not lose your socks with respect to standards of practice in the area of project performance really starts with project selection. This is an area that we work very carefully in with local business enterprises based upon an initial CDP enrollment or CTAP enrollment tied to an assessment of where your company stands. What type of project lends itself particularly well to your background and organizational experience? What type of project lends itself well to your existing financial capacity or capacity that can be gained through our programs associated with bonding guarantees or our CAP loan program? And what type of project selection with respect to certain types of owners makes sense based upon your background and your history. So project selection is really kind of the starting point in any successful venture that we see. We are prepared to provide with internal resources or even external third parties that we work with, bidding and estimating assistance. And when we talk about bidding and estimating assistance, it really, for me, starts with understanding what your process is for example, bidding your labor on a fully burdened basis, as an example, incorporating taxes, insurance, fringe benefits, vacation pay, perhaps some element of fixed and variable costs into the labor burden, as an example, in the bidding and estimating process. Certainly looking at how you do your takeoffs with respect to materials and equipment, and also subcontracted buyouts that you may be bringing to a project if you're bidding in a prime position. So our practice is geared to provide bidding and estimating assistance. By the way, each one of these that are asterisk there are points that I want to emphasize from a standpoint of availability of training in these areas. Scheduling, the same thing. Very often we see scheduling driven by the master schedule on a project, but and of course the impact of scheduling on the delivery of your work to the project has an impact, again, going back to cash flow and financial reporting, but providing you assistance in the area of scheduling is something that we can also bring to the fore in terms of development programs. Certainly a review of your processes associated with the buyout of materials or equipment and subcontracts is a part of the discussion, and to get an assessment of where you think you stand with respect to, if you want to call it comfort or competency in those areas, is something that we like to explore with contractors. I mentioned in the previous module job status reporting, again, very, very important to being able to make momentary changes in the field that will lead to the successful prosecution of a project, the performance of a project. In terms of general conditions, which essentially we emphasize very heavily in our cash management seminar, we have a spreadsheet approach that is very flexible to cataloging your general conditions, which is a breakdown essentially of activities and quantities of functions, unit price functions in many instances on a project, with a mix in, if you will, of the general requirements associated with a specific project, the overhead, plotting all that on a spreadsheet so it can become sort of a dynamic management tool in terms of managing your general conditions. It also provides a basis for change order development and management and the other management reports from a financial reporting standpoint that are so important to a successful project. So managing, documenting and managing from your general conditions is an area that we can help you with as well. I mentioned earlier the pay application process in terms of perfecting whatever pay application format is required by contract, making sure that your pay apps go in on time and are as accurate as possible to avoid them being turned back for modification, which then of course delays the progress payment cycle, which is something that no one wants to have to suffer if they can avoid it. Change order logs, again, documenting whether they be contractor or your change orders that are being driven by your need to change means, methods, the materials that are incorporated into the project or the equipment complement that is incorporated, versus the field-driven change order that by contract very often you're required to respond to without any formal approval of that. You're kind of going on the basis that it's all going to fall together based upon a field directive, and then right on through to documenting change order costs associated with an owner-driven change order. And then finally, project closeout, the successful closeout of a project to include obviously dealing with trade damage, dealing with individual activities that are associated with the closeout of a project. So these are the areas, again, from a project management standpoint, that we can be of assistance to you in. And are there any questions on this area of the discussion so far?
So there's no question for this area, but going back to the previous slide, it's related to the markup percentage, John. A contractor said that as an LBE, he or she was informed that the markup is 35%. And I think you have a different percentage in the paper.
Well, actually, I'll tell you something. If you can mark a project up by 35% straight, you can plan on, if your costs hold, you can plan on making a margin of 30%. There is a formula associated with all of that we'll be happy to provide you with. In fact, it's out there on the web as well. It's a very simple application of your markup against your costs, okay? Then divided by the sum of that divided by the contract price will give you your margin. So if you mark it up by 35, through a twist of math, you will end up with a profit margin of 30. And would be very happy to follow up with anybody or everybody on the program today with that formulaic approach to marking a project up.
Thank you. There's another question that came through. Can you elaborate a little bit on the difference between the markup and margins?
Yes, that's what I was just attempting to address. Through a twist of math, if you, let's say, for example, you have hard dollar costs of $100,000 on a project, and you intend to make 20% profit on the project, that would be your margin. You can't just add 20% to that $100,000 of hard costs for a total of $120,000 and expect to earn $20,000 of profit at the end of the project. In order to earn that $20,000 of intended profit margin, you need to mark the project up by 25%. So now your costs plus markup would be $125,000. That divided by the project, the new cost of the project, which is $125,000, gives you your 20% margin. That's essentially the equation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next slide, please.
Okay.
All right, so now we're going to kind of transition into the strategic planning portion of our program, which will not be a review for those of you who participated in our earlier programs, sort of our attempt now to pull everything together. So we go at strategic planning from a standpoint of really and truly addressing those three areas that we mentioned earlier are problematic in terms of running a successful construction operation. They are financial in nature, they are field and home office operational in nature, and they are strategic market access or addressing the needs of your strategic market and being able to land work. So our strategic planning guidance essentially evolves from these three areas. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so our guidance in this area for small business enterprises and LBEs is to begin with what we call a SWOT analysis. Now, SWOT analysis has been around for a very long time. It's a not just construction industry, but industry overall accepted starting point in the process of strategic planning. The SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. A SWOT analysis attempts to catalog, if you will, and by the way, we have a format within our CDP CTAP program to provide you with beginning a SWOT analysis, okay? But to analyze the strengths that your company has at any given point in time, in terms of how your background and organization positions you to land and attack work in the marketplace, what you perceive to be the weaknesses of your company in terms of perhaps areas or elements of financial planning or bidding and estimating, whatever it might be, what you think your strategic market opportunities are for developing your company, and what constitutes marketplace threats or other impediments that might impinge on your ability to successfully operate your company. So strategic planning starts from the beginning with a SWOT analysis. That SWOT analysis then evolves into a discussion of your business model, which we discussed back in January, was nothing more than the structure of your business, your value proposition, and your strategy in working with potential customers and existing customers. That business model links to your profit model and then ultimately to a marketing plan for success. So we're here from a developmental process standpoint to help you implement all of these pieces so that you can come up with an effective long-term strategic plan. Next slide, please. So the marketing plan end game is to understand the structure of your company, where it stands today, where it needs to be in order to meet opportunities in the marketplace and to mitigate potential threats to success, what your value proposition is, and ultimately a target market strategy that addresses customer needs. Next slide, please. To take a little closer look, and for those of you who participated in January, you remember we put the business model canvas up on the board, which breaks down into 3 basic quadrants. Your company structure. This is an inventory of the key partners that you have as a contractor, whether it be your CPA or accountant, whether it be a legal advisor, whether it be the folks that populate the Contractor Development Program, your surety broker or insurance broker, beyond that, perhaps lenders, key partners that can operate as trusted advisors in conjunction with the management and the planning that you implement in conjunction with your business, okay? The company structure as it relates to the key activities. If you're a prime contractor, you have key activities that span all of the divisions of work on a project. If you're a specialty contractor, say an electrical or a mechanical or a drywall contractor, you've got certain core activities associated with your specialization in the marketplace, but you've also got key activities associated with project management, your workforce on the job site, and things that relate to other activities, and of course whether or not an understanding of the company structure as it relates to resources, again, like personnel, equipment, access to materials. These types of things are looked at in the SWOT analysis process for their adequacy and where they are today versus where they might need to be in order for you to achieve the level of success you want to achieve in the business. Your value proposition, that in and of itself assures that you've got something essentially to offer to the marketplace that differentiates you in a number of ways, whether it be just the blanket term of on time, on budget work. What does that really mean? How does your company differentiate itself in terms of being able to deliver on time, on budget? Do you incorporate elements as an example of total quality management into the work you do? Are you LEED certified? That is of particular attractiveness to potential customers. And of course, the one I like is innovation, because contractors who recognize the importance of innovation are recognizing an element of their value proposition that is super important to either prime contractors that you work with if you're in a subcontracting position, or project owners if you're working in a prime position. And remember, the statistic tied to innovation is that 70% of all innovation in construction is brought at the contractor level, whether you be in a subcontracting position or a prime contracting position. Innovation is interesting from a project planning standpoint in terms of owners and architects and engineers, but the true execution of the scope and the innovative means and methods that are needed in order to make that scope happen and for the project to function as intended, that innovation is coming at the field level. So your value proposition, including a discussion of all of that, is really very important. And of course, being able to assess and understand the needs of your targeted customers based upon, as a starting point, perhaps the contract type. If your contracting type is lump sum hard bid versus design build versus fast track, the needs of your customers in conjunction with various types or forms of contract, or it could be a time and materials or a labor only type of a contract, the needs of your customers are going to vary from customer to customer, contract to contract. So understanding the needs of your customers in conjunction with the type of contract that they're asking you to engage in is really very important. And how do you identify those needs? It's tied to what we call your service channel or touches. Your ability to assess and understand the needs of a target market customer begins in the pre-qualification process. For those of you who haven't given a lot of thought to the process of strategic planning, the fact that you're trying to fill out a pre-qualification statement is a form of assessing the needs of your clients. They're telling you what it is they need in order for you to be included on one of their projects. So it starts with pre-qualification. It goes all on to pre-bid. It goes on to the award process. It goes on post-award to the submittal process. It goes on to the course of construction process, and even post-construction when it comes to, as I was mentioning earlier, addressing the needs of owners in terms of punch list items, in terms of correcting trade damage, whatever it's going to be. So your service channel or touches throughout the construction continuum are enormously important to your strategy associated with your strategic marketing plan. And then, of course, we talk about best value. There's a lot of discussion about best value as a structure within which you might be bidding a project in order to differentiate yourself against the competition, where best value may be determined on not just low price, but best approach to the business. There are elements of best value contracting, whether that's the basis of your contractual relationship with an owner, that you can incorporate into your strategy and your game plan for taking care of customer needs on the project. Okay, so are there any questions at this point in the discussion about strategic planning that I can answer?
There is one that came through, John. Is there a template utilized for the business model, or is that more of a general statement based on the evaluation of a SWOT?
Great question. We have templates for every element of this discussion right now, whether it be the SWOT analysis, which is essentially a template that's broken to, as a starting point, into 4 quadrants: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and how all of that relates together, okay, in terms of then a strategy to deal with either mitigating weaknesses, capitalizing on strengths, recognizing and focusing on those opportunities you have in the marketplace, and how you deal with strategic threats, competitive threats, how you differentiate yourself from the competition. So that SWOT analysis is a 4-quadrant template that we start with. It can grow beyond that, and it can actually be reduced from just a template to a narrative discussion, whatever. So that's the core there. Then when it comes to the business model, what we do is we take those basic concepts behind the structure of your business, the value proposition that you intend to communicate, and your target market strategy. That business model canvas, if you will, or picture, is broken into 3 quadrants. Now, in developing your business model, there may be other areas that we delve into, depending on the type of contracting you do. For example, you may be at some point not only providing construction services, but you might be providing professional services in construction in conjunction with your business. That takes on a whole different look from a business model standpoint. So again, we start with the 3 basic quadrants of a business model, build from there, and relate that business model then to your profit model, which I'll touch on in a minute, or a review of that in a minute. So hopefully that answers the question. We've got this stuff all inventoried and are very eager to utilize it with you.
Thank you, John. No additional questions for this section, so shall we move on?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so how you exploit your strengths, you mitigate your weaknesses, you capitalize on opportunities, and neutralize competitive threats becomes the basis, as I've kind of hit on prior to this, the basis for your business model, which is constructed on the basis of the structure of your business, the value proposition, and target market strategy that you intend to implement. That in turn is linked to your profit model. And for those of you who participated earlier, the profit model for a contractor is really very simple. It's costs plus markup equals profit. Now, while that's a very simple profit model, it's a tough one to deliver on because of all of the potential impacts of the construction process, where it would be delays in construction that are driven by factors outside of your control, whether they are cost increases that are driven outside of your immediate control. All of that makes that profit model, while it seems very simple, to be one of the more complicated and difficult ones to deliver on. But it's evidenced by successful construction firms that you can master that model and make it work for you. So you by incorporating your business model and linking it to your profit model, you then develop a marketing plan, which I'll summarize as an identification of the objectives for your company, your goals for achieving certain levels of profitability or activities that you perform as a contractor, milestones and measurements associated with all of that, a comprehensive marketing plan. As I stated early in the presentation, having that in place more than doubles your potential for being a successful contractor. So I can't stress enough the importance of transitioning everything we've talked about today in terms of capital management, project continuum management, linking it to SWOT analysis and the business model and the profit model, ultimately to a marketing plan, is what we really think constitutes the full picture here. Okay, next slide, please. Now, for any of you who might be thinking, well, gosh, I've got to go through all of this stuff and have it all in place before I can be considered for participation in the surety bond program or in the contractor accelerated payment program, that's not the case. We are prepared and have real life examples within our existing interaction with contractors of a fast track approach to all of this training and strategic planning. We're prepared to provide the training needed to participate in the bond guarantee program and the CAP program on an accelerated basis. We've actually taken contractors through this to get them ready to participate in the bond guarantee program or the CAP program inside of 90 days. So from the point in time that a project becomes a twinkle in your eye and you're 90 days out from actually bidding that job, we can implement a strategy to get you there so that you can take advantage of these programs. We've also had success in helping contractors participate in the programs where the project has already been bid, but having bid the project already and won the project already, you're locked into, for example, contract terms that maybe we could have helped you, not from a legal standpoint negotiate, but point out the pitfalls of them before you actually sign that document. So that's another service in terms of contract review, the do's and don'ts that we provide on a fast track approach to assisting small business enterprises and LBEs in participating in our programs. And of course, at that crunch time, we can bring forces to bear to help you tune up your estimate and your project schedule. And again, on a fast track basis, look at cash flow projecting and exactly where this project might stand from a standpoint of work in process against whatever additional signed backlog of work that you have at that particular point in time. Okay, so just trying to make absolutely certain that everyone participating today knows that we can fast track all of this training and strategic planning. Okay, next slide, please. We really and truly believe, based upon proof of concept, Merriwether Williams has 22 some odd years of working with small business enterprises and LBEs in our contractor development and CTAP programs. We think we've got the code cracked in working with LBEs, and quite frankly, we learn things every time we get into one of these cases. We become more in tune to what some of the challenges are that our contractors are facing on a day-to-day basis, and try to work collaboratively with you to decode and to otherwise position you for success. So when we focus on training and discipline to meet the challenges of the marketplace from a capital management standpoint, goes back to the beginning of this discussion, from a project management standpoint at the field level as well as the home office level, and developing a strategy for managing with a plan, we think we are we're providing, we hope, what it is contractors will need to avoid the pitfalls of early failure or early difficulties in business, and some of those statistics that I pointed out earlier. Next slide, please. So having said all of this, we think the program sets the stage for your commercial independence. Our goal with this program, quite frankly, is so that you will emerge independently able to qualify for bonding without a surety bond guarantee, as an example. To walk into a commercial lender and sit down and say, I'd like to discuss a term loan facility with you so that I can expand my capital and equipment that I own. The process of essentially developing commercial independence is what our programs are all about. We think we can help you deliver projects on time and on budget by working with you in the financial reporting area. Hopefully the outcome there is projects that ultimately function as intended and are delivered on budget. And to avoid the pitfalls of business failure in the early stages, quite frankly, the long-term rewards for contractors far outweigh the risks if we take an upfront, proactive approach to managing capital, managing the projects we get, and managing overall with a plan. Okay, next slide, please. That kind of concludes the program for today, and I'm very happy to answer questions. So I'll open it up for question and answer at this point. Anything out there?
Nothing yet, but we encourage you guys to use the Q&A feature at the bottom if you have any questions.
We'll be glad to follow up with you as well. And for those contractors in the audience today where we're actually working with you, if you see things in this presentation today that you'd like to query with us in terms of how we're managing your program, we're very happy to engage with you at that level. But marketing strategy details. Okay, great question. We have a format that we've developed for the marketing strategy that really begins with a recognition that starts with a strategic analysis of your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, the basis upon which you'll select projects going forward, and the target market that you want to address. And I mentioned to you that it includes and identifies goals, objectives, measurements and management, who, what, why, when, where, the resources needed in order to implement your marketing plan based upon an analysis of your existing resources or to be developed or acquired resources, and timeframes. So would be very happy to engage with you in terms of templating that marketing plan format and moving forward from there. Does that answer the question?
Another one came through.
Based on, hey, I'm going to defer on that question to some of my CDP colleagues here, because I do know that we assist with branding and can bring assistance in that area. Yes, thank you for participating today. Much appreciated. Jennifer or Carol, do you have comments on the brochure, branding, that whole process where we can be of assistance in that area?
So, hi, this is Jennifer Elmore, and I just wanted to say that in terms of marketing flyers, we have Monica Wilson on staff who will assist with the marketing. We would work with you directly to do the SWOT and business models that we can then hand it over to work with Monica to do the flyers themselves.
And do we have some third-party firms that we can refer contractors to that can help with all of that besides our own resource in Monica, Jennifer?
There also is Bonner Communications, and they are also an LBE, but they do high quality websites, marketing materials, and they create an elaborate marketing plan that is well worth it.
And I might add that since the marketing plan, we're stressing so much this approach to a strategic marketing plan. Typically, business planning for the immediate following calendar year takes place in the fall. And we are planning right now a comprehensive run through of what constitutes a business and or marketing plan, just as a member of our audience asked, do we have an approach or a template to it? We're going to be doing a program in September. We've targeted a date to go through the marketing plan, how it's structured, what it takes to develop one. The idea being that you would want your marketing plan for any calendar year or fiscal year done at least 90 days before the embarkation of that year, and have it set up in such a way that you can refer back to it periodically during the year, apply different measurements to see where you're meeting your intended plan or whether it needs to be tweaked. So stay tuned for a focused approach and a focused presentation this fall on how to develop a strategic marketing plan.